BCC, Jeffersonville, Virginia. Am I in the way again?
Everybody.
Yeah, I put,
Very large group today. This is wonderful.
I get past you.
Okay, first off, we are going to raise the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. So my name is Holly Reeder. I am the general manager at the Aspen Suites Hotel here. I am also the vice president of the chamber board. So yet again, you get to listen to me up here. It looks like I am joined by a couple other of our board members, Lauren Olson with Northrim and Tamara Needens with the Tribe. There we go, got it. So welcome, thank you guys for being here. They are both also on the Housing Task Force Committee that the Chamber put together when we decided that the housing issue was going to be one of our priorities this year. So thank you guys both for all the work you've done in putting these speaker series together. I don't see any elected officials in the room. Announcements. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 16th, we have our monthly Sitka's Emerging Leaders meetup. This will take place from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Harbor Mountain Brewing. If you know anybody in your organization, the ages 21 to 40, everybody is welcome. It is a wonderful community that we put together. We've been doing these monthly meetups since June. They have really good turnout and people are enjoying them and learning a lot, networking, those kinds of things. We'll be hearing from Michael Mosbach tomorrow. He's with Spruce Root. It will be a great conversation from him and his professional journey and his work and how he does a work-life balance kind of idea. Next, the Sitka Chamber's third annual Light Up Lincoln Street is going to be held Saturday, December 2nd. We're still looking for sponsorships for that event. You can contact the Chamber office if you would like to help sponsor that event. The more sponsors we get, the more lights we can put up downtown and the happier we can all be when it gets dark at 5 o'clock. Third announcement, very exciting. Our executive director, Rachel Roy, is officially on her maternity leave right now, where she's expecting the arrival of her baby boy any day. We're wishing Rachel all of the best right now. We'll see her back in the office in January. We have Tanya doing some interim work with the chamber, kind of stepping into those shoes as we have bigger projects and planning for things coming in the new year. If you have any issues or anything, you can contact the chamber office. We still have Victoria and Chase there 5 days a week, normal office hours. They are amazing. They can probably answer every question that you might have. For our speakers, because we're all tired of hearing from me, today we're going to hear from Randy Hughey. He's the executive director of the Sitka Community Land Trust. He's going to share some of their development plans, updates for the future. We're also going to be hearing from Sarah Allison with First Bank. She'll be speaking about the lending process for the Sitka Community Land Trust housing. They are in partnerships, so it should be a great series. It'll be awesome to hear the updates, what's going on there. Thank you, guys. That's it. All you.
Okay. So hello, I'm Randy Hughey, and as mentioned, Executive Director of the Sitka Community Land Trust with Sarah Allison from First Bank and Don Wesley also from First Bank. So this conversation is going to be about construction and mortgage financing using the Sitka Community Land Trust as sort of a way to talk about that and how that works for us. Now I'm here with First Bank, and they've been a tremendous partner to the Sitka Community Land Trust, but our mortgages for our buyers can be from any bank who gives mortgages, and our construction financing, same thing. We are eager to have other people who want to loan to us in those ways. So they've been a great partner, but we're not in an exclusive relationship. So how the Community Land Trust works is a little different and strange, and offers a way to look at construction financing that's a bit unique. So first, has anyone not heard how the permanent affordability of Community Land Trust homes is achieved? I will give a 30-second on that. If you haven't heard the ideas, I'd be happy just to address that. You've all heard it?
No, give the 30 seconds.
The 30 seconds. Okay, time it. To achieve affordability at the beginning of a house, a small house is built and there's no land cost. The land has a deed and the house has a deed, which are separated. So initial affordability is about small house, no land cost. Permanent affordability is achieved by limiting profit taking at resale. A home buyer gains money two ways in owning a home. They gain it by the equity that they purchase monthly or with their down payment, and they gain it through the appreciation of the property, the inflationary increase. That inflationary increase, the home seller is limited to 25% of that increase only. And then we put the house back on the market at something way below the appraised value again. That was my 30 seconds on how that happens, all right? And yeah, there's some nuance in there. So how our process works is that we select a home buyer out of the many who are applying and who are in our pool of applicants. Over a dozen, 2 more calls yesterday. People who want to buy a house. And we select for eligibility, they cannot make more than 120% of the area median income. They have to be a resident and of the United States. They don't have to be, is that true even? I believe it's true. They have to be of an age of majority, and they have to be a resident, and they have to not make more than 120% of the area median income. And then we ask them to get a pre-qualification letter from a bank. So they can go whoever and find out, how much can I get a loan for to buy a house? If all of that looks good and they progress through the other processes of our eligibility and they're income qualified, we will ultimately sign a earnest money agreement, thank you, with the home buyer to provide the home at a certain price based on what our builder can make the house for. And then we sign a contract and on we go. We get a construction loan then. So the Sitka Community Land Trust gets a construction loan. And so that pays for the construction, pays for the builder to build a house. The interest rates right now are 11.25% variable on construction loans. So it ends up being $16,000 to $18,000 added on to the price of a house, right? The construction loan, which is for something on the order of 9 months that it takes us to build a house, is really a chunk of money. And then the mortgage rates, of course, are much higher, and that is going to raise the monthly payments that the home buyer pays. So, so maybe I could pause right there. I have more to say, but why don't you guys talk about the construction loan and the mortgage loan?
Okay, so I'm Sarah Allison. I'm the branch manager for First Bank here in Sitka. I also do the commercial lending. And we work with the Sitka Community Land Trust. I am on the board of the Sitka Community Land Trust. I have been for about 4.5 years. So I don't personally work with the land trust loans. We have our Ketchiking office works with them. But the process is very similar in many ways to a standard construction loan. The CLT comes to us and they say, hey, we have a buyer. We always have a buyer ahead of time before we start the construction loan process. That buyer has achieved a mortgage pre-approval either through the First Bank, well, always through the First Bank Mortgage Department, but they don't have to go with us again. We just do that as a precaution. And then we begin the process of underwriting the construction loan, again, vetting contractors, looking at timelines, looking at costs, all that good stuff. What makes it different than a standard construction loan is that First Bank has been working with the CLT for about 10 years and has created a commercial construction lending program that makes it work for a nonprofit entity to take this loan without having a steady source of income. The CLT doesn't have a regular income stream, so that makes it a little bit different. And we're able to do the loan so that it's beneficial to the CLT and to the home buyer. We use the appraised value of the home, which includes the appraised value of the land. And that land portion, again, is it subsidizes the down payment required for the home buyer. And so then we can build our construction loan based on our cost to build and that appraised value using the equity from the land to help the home buyer from having to have that very large down payment. And then we track the construction process all the way through. We're making sure that everything is staying on budget, staying on time, things are progressing as they should, things are being built as they should be built. So there's checks and balances in place. And we work closely with the CLT in that. As it gets closer to the end of the project, we will direct that home buyer to become more actively involved with their mortgage lender. Dawn and I typically work closely together around that time to make sure that the home buyer has everything in place that they need, the communication is flowing, that they're going to be ready to have their mortgage in place when that project is done. And that's where Dawn comes in.
So what happens is that mortgage actually pays off the construction loan, and that becomes their permanent mortgage. I think the biggest thing about the loan that makes it so affordable is that there's the purchase price of the home, and then there's the land. And so what happens is, typically when you come in to get a mortgage, you know, and most people know, you put less than 20% down, you have mortgage insurance, okay? So what happens is the subsidy or the amount of the land actually counts as that 20% down. Not to say that they can't go out, there's other programs out there, there's HOP funds, there's NAHI funds, there's LIFT funds, there's a lot of other down payment assistance programs out there, but that is the basic one that comes with having the trust. We do the loan just like any other lender. The only difference is that we have worked through the process of making sure that the customer is able to utilize the trust concept. We're not the only lender, and it can go through anybody else. One of the big things that's coming up as we are progressing through this is the interest rates. I know Randy just talked about the interest rates on the construction side. Well, obviously everybody knows on the mortgage side how ugly the rates are, and they're getting uglier. Even though if you look back like 15 years ago, we probably all bought homes when they were this rate, but for the brand new home buyer, they don't see that. They look back and go, oh my gosh, 2 years ago I could have got a 3%. So we try and go out and look at things to help lower their interest rate, and that doesn't mean buying their interest rate down. There's programs out there, if they're low enough income, we can do an interest rate reduction. The constructions of the homes are really well constructed. They are typically very energy efficient. There are 2 different levels of interest rate reduction that has to do with the energy level. If they are 6-star, they are eligible to half a percent on the first 185 of their loan. If it is 5-star plus, I'll make sure I get 5-star plus, it's 0.375. And we are able to stack all those things with the customer. And any bank can do that. That's just something that we try and do when we talk to each one of the customers. What can we do to help you? Because everything's based off debt to income ratio, obviously, in lending, but also for the land trust program itself. So we try and work really careful, making sure our numbers kind of match up, and are we on the same page? And just a second set of eyes to help. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Oh, yes.
I just have a quick question. Will USDA underwrite a loan when the land doesn't convey in the
Yes.
transaction as well?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, and kind of speaking to that a little bit is, you know, we've said multiple times we're not the only lender that can do this. The thing that kind of has made our partnership with the CLT work so well is when the CLT approached First Bank about 10 years ago, and started speaking with Mike Medford, who is our chief mortgage officer, who's from Sitka, and he knows this area and he knows these people very well. He was very interested to hear any ideas at that time or ever since, any ideas that could help improve the housing situation and the affordability situation here. And because he was able to take the time to really work with Alaska Housing Finance particularly, we were able to create this program and go through the process to make it possible to use that land that the borrower does not own as part of the equity payment or the down payment on the property. So working through that process with HFC, building that relationship, is what's made it possible for us to do what we have done over the course of the last 10 years. So,
Yeah.
but it is possible for other lenders to also
Absolutely.
Yeah.
go through that process.
And I was telling these ladies on the walk over, when I started this work, I thought it was a construction problem, right? It's good house design and compact, and it's a finance problem almost wholly. And so the work of bankers in helping us figure that out, and you heard many, many acronyms mentioned here about various programs. There is just this world of programs and options that is complicated. And so we rely, and our home buyers rely on the work of bankers who know this stuff to provide the best possible rates for us in terms of construction loans and in terms of the mortgages themselves. So at this point, what the land trust really needs is, in order to supply lower cost housing, is lower cost on our construction loans, because as I mentioned, $16,000 to $18,000 per loan on top of the price. And so what we really need is a grant, possibly, well, from someone that would put like $500,000 in a fund that we could use, just keep it in the bank and use it as a revolving loan fund. The Alaska Housing and Finance Corporation has mentioned that as an idea. It's not a program yet, it's not a promise. It was something that we've been talking to them about. That would help a lot in terms of getting our house costs down. And home buyers need lower interest rate, but as Dawn mentioned, you know, when my wife and I bought our first home in the early 80s, we paid 13%. So 8% seems pretty good right now if you have that historical perspective. But if you're just thinking about the 3% from 2 years ago, it's really a huge difference in the monthly payments, right? So, you know, there are some positive signs about interest rates. We'll see. And because right now there's so much pent-up need, the Sitka Community Land Trust does not lack for people to buy houses for, because we have lots of people in the pool, but we are not able to serve people at a lower income rate. You know, there's the limit is higher than we want. We want to serve people who make less money, and we can't right now. Tons of buyers, but just not lower income people. And so then shall I move? I don't know, I didn't time this, so somebody, how are we doing?
Great, we're good on time. Yeah.
So I should wrap up?
No, you have at least 15 to 20 more minutes if you like it.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay, good. I
yeah,
didn't,
no,
yeah.
feel free to
Okay.
keep on going.
I would just add on to Randy just said, you know, that we're not able to serve that lower income level group. And that is entirely because of the amount of money it costs to build a home, and those higher interest rates really pushing the debt to income ratios too high.
Right.
So we're serving a moderate income population here, but that moderate income population is, you know, people who are, I mean, most of our homeowners at this point are single women with families.
Yeah.
But we do have married couples and families moving in. a two-family household and even a single earner household can still afford these homes
Yeah.
at a moderate level income for Sitka.
Yes. Lauren?
I'm in banking, so I get it, but maybe for everyone else's benefit, what you're saying is if that monthly payment was $1,500 a month, these lower income people may only be making $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
actually, you would be harming them if you put them in a $1,500 a month
Right.
house payment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
so it's not that you're being mean or
No.
excluding them. It's just
Right.
realistic, and they, yeah.
Because part of the mission of a community land trust is called stewardship, and it means taking care of people as well as buildings. And so we are not going to put people into a position, despite how desperately they want to buy a house, a position that they really should not do. So we have pretty strict debt to income ratios that we just won't do that to people. It's a very good point.
You're building some rentals though, so that will help a little.
Yes.
Right?
And I'll get to that in a bit later. How about if I take this question over here?
Well, so around the ratios, has there ever been any dialogue of changing the income limitations? Because there's a lot of people, and I'll just use myself as an example. I'm a high income earner. I can't afford,
Yeah.
so front and back end ratios, I understand all that.
Yeah.
But I actually have the income that I could actually do it
Yeah.
if I chose to. But I
Yeah, I
am limited
gotcha.
out because I make too much money.
Yeah.
So that's not fair to us.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I still can't buy a
Yeah.
$500,000
Right.
house.
When we
because the land's
started,
attached.
I thought that 120% of area median income was too high of a top ceiling, and it's not.
It's too low.
And so I understand that.
Yes, sir. That's just a little dialogue.
No, that's great.
You're consistent with nationwide, so.
It is.
120% is not wrong.
Yeah, just,
It's consistent.
yeah.
But the cost to build is too expensive, so it changes the dynamic
Yeah.
right now.
No, I think that's a valid point. That's a valid point. So the other thing that's hard about our work is sustaining the work of the nonprofit itself, right? So we have 2 part-time employees. That's how we're doing this. So really the largest subsidy in these houses is the fact that 2 of us are working virtually full-time on 2 part-time employee salaries. And to generate funding to run the nonprofit, we mark the price of the house up. We don't want to do that. We want to mark the price of the house down, right? And so one of the potential solutions is an apartment building at the far outbound end of our lot. We're subdividing that off. There's a 4-plex slated to go in, some funding pending. We hope that we receive grant funding to own it outright, and then there's a pretty good stream that's sort of a foundation of the income. It's not enough, but it's a good start to run a nonprofit. So that's the next big thing that we're taking on, is the apartment building. And we've already begun to work on what's the next parcel of land that we will develop, because we will be done with everything. I think it's 2026, maybe 2027, that it's 2027. We're done with all the lots, all the houses, and the apartment, right? And since it takes a long time to develop land, to acquire it and develop it, we've begun to work on that so that there's more coming if we can make that happen. And then there's a house being completed right now. We'll have a certificate of occupancy by the end of the week. And there's an open house Saturday morning from 10 to 12. This Saturday morning from 10 to 12. It's the red house in back. And to get there, you have to go to the outbound end and drive in one of those driveways. If you go into the middle, you're going to be having yourself a scramble up some places that aren't yet developed. So go to the far end and walk up the road. That'll work out better for everybody. At the red house, 10 to 12 Saturday morning. If you want to see a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, the price of which is $280,000. And that's a price that was set a year ago that we can't do today. All right? So that house will be substantially more expensive the next time we build that model. I just want to say that. And I don't want to say a number, but it's higher than that, you know. Okay? Questions? There's Lauren.
I mean, you guys are doing a great job, the Land Trust, and they're banking partner, First Bank. Good job, thank you guys. How many more homes or units will you be able to build between now and 2027? Is it 10 more, is it 12 more?
It's not 10 more. There's a total of 14 that will go on that neighborhood, and we are, what is that? I always lose track. That's,
The last one is the 8th, the one that's going up right now is the 8th one.
Yeah.
So 7 more,
So
Yeah.
7 more?
yeah.
6 more, sorry.
Is that including that apartment complex?
No.
Okay.
So it's 14 houses plus a fourplex
Okay.
is the plan.
That was my question as well. How many
Yeah.
units can you accommodate in that space?
Yeah, and we just got a little grant to do the architectural and engineering on the apartment, and at this point, we're saying 4 units, and they're 2-bedroom units, and that could change, because we want to maximize the housing there as much as possible. There's not much land, and so we want to get as many people housed as we can, so there may be some adjustments to that concept.
I have a question. So you talked about a grant kind of idea to give you kind of a nesting that you
yes.
can use.
Yeah.
Are there grants out there already for something like that you're looking into, or is it right now just like this idea?
Yeah.
Is it an awesome idea?
Yes.
But
It's just an idea as far as I know. There might be grants. We are really, in the past year, we added J.J. Carlson as a staff, and she has great architectural training and has done project management for big construction companies, and we have begun to set our sights on statewide and federal money, bigger grants, bigger asks, and so we don't know all that's out there. When we talked a few months ago with a group from the Alaska Housing and Finance Corporation saying, this is us, how can you help us? Someone said, well, you need us to give you $500,000 to put it in the bank to use as a revolving loan, but no such program exists. But it could, or something like that, and then it would just be there to save, $16,000 to $18,000 per house.
yeah, no,
So-
it's an amazing idea. I was
Yes.
just curious if there
Yes. There was a time, and y'all remember the Stevens money that the city had, a big chunk of money that was used for loans of various kinds, low interest or no interest loans and stuff. Those days are gone, but that would have been great too. And the city had it, and anybody that has $500,000 laying around, they don't know what to do with it and are inclined, we would love to use it. You can have it back when we're done. We just want to use it as a revolving loan. Other
What's the rate of
questions?
return on the interest for it?
Yeah. Can't be much, or there's no,
purpose?
yeah, no point, yeah.
If you've got $500,000, you can buy a house.
Yeah.
But
Wasn't gonna use mine, but.
Cliff,
Yes, hi Randy.
hi.
I feel like I should know the answer to this, but are there any sort of membership or association dues?
Yeah, good
With
question.
that?
You want to do that one, just so I'm not always talking?
Yeah, so there is a homeowners association at the Sitka Shop community right now. Every homeowner is required to be part of it. Every future homeowner is required to be part of it. But the fees at this point are very low. I think right now they're $35 a month for the homeowners association fee. The homeowners have taken over the association. The CLT started it. We got it off the ground, got it set up. The homeowners have now taken it over, and they're setting their own budgets and managing their own funds at this point. In addition to the homeowners association fee, there's a ground lease fee. I believe it's $50 a month, and that goes to the CLT. And then there's a maintenance fund. Each home every month, what is it, $25 or
It is.
something? $25 a month each homeowner pays, and it goes into a fund that stays with their home to help towards maintenance. So these homes are brand new right now, they don't need maintenance. 10 years from now, they might need a new water heater, they might need something fixed, and that money will be there to help them pay for that. Since, again, these home maintenance is expensive, and so this is part of the.
Yeah.
So what's the association paying for in that situation?
So the
Fees for
homeowners,
that?
the homeowners association dues right now mostly pay for insurance, things like plowing. They are determining whether they want to include fees for landscaping. That's The CLT wants to do the landscaping, but money for that is difficult to come by. So the homeowners may choose to take that upon themselves. They're talking about fencing as well. They each want fences around their property, so that's something they're talking about including fees for. But right now it's mostly insurance and snowplow and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Lauren?
So, and the chamber task force is glad that you guys are here talking, because what we want to do is bring people together to help solve problems. And Randy, you and I talked before, you mentioned it briefly, you know, you need more land, the next piece.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that would be something that kind of comes out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough thing.
Mhm.
We've talked, but
Yeah.
I guess a comment and then a question. Have you, the question's gonna be, you know, what have you done?
Mhm.
My comment would be, have you reached out to the Forest Service, Alaska Mental Health Trust? Are they giving you lukewarm responses so that maybe a larger group from Sitka could help persuade them? I mean,
Yeah.
how can
Yeah.
we work to help you?
Yeah. So, starting at the beginning of all of this, the fundamental economic problem about housing in Sitka is based in government ownership of land. We're surrounded by federal land. There's a lot of state land. There's mental health trust land. And there's really still quite a bit of municipal land, right? So that's a bigger barrier than the ocean in front and the mountains behind. And so we work on that. And so I'll start with the Forest Service, because they actually approached us a couple months ago. The new ranger is creative, and he can't find housing even for his employees. And they own a bunch of land just that they want to see used. Other Forest Service land in other parts of the nation, well, in the Grand Tetons in particular, they found a way to do a lease and build houses for employees. So we have a lease and we're talking. And there's really great interest, because the problem is very common in national forests, right? That they're surrounded by the federal government and they can't expand. So yes, we're talking, and that is a long ways out there, but we're gonna just kind of keep pushing on that. There's state land as well, and there are efforts on the part of the city to get more state land in city ownership, and the city can dispose of land much more readily than the state or the feds. So there's effort being made there. We are also looking at private parcels, and there are people that own some pretty good chunks of land, and who knows, maybe we could raise the money to buy it, and or some, you know, good deal given, I don't know. But we are trying to look at every manner of land ownership where it's at that's readily developable, and trying to figure out a strategy to acquire it.
Good job, keep up the good work.
Yeah, much to be done there. Anything else that you two we need to say?
Maybe one more question,
Sure.
just regarding expansion. What would that community trust look like at like different parcels of land as you grow?
Yeah. It wouldn't be wouldn't have to be a part of a homeowners association, right? They can just be standalone with nothing like that. So if there's scattered lots, that they can just be that, right? And so the city is doing a study, or is about to do a study of city-owned land for development into housing. I don't know where that stands exactly. It's a funded idea. I don't think they have a contractor or even maybe the RFP quite formed. But there's going to be a careful analysis of different parcels of land that the city owns to decide what to develop, and to develop budgets for putting in the roads and the utilities and things. And in conversation with the planning department, we certainly hope to be a part of that. We certainly hope that they would set some of that land aside for this affordable home model. No promises have been made to that end, but the idea is being discussed.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and the need is very, very great. I do not know how to quantify it. I know that Cliff and Bihar are doing a study of housing needs, and the need is very great. That's all I know for tribal citizens and non-tribal citizens. There are not enough buildings. Many of them are in poor repair, and the costs are astronomical. You know all that. It is genuinely a housing crisis, but unlike Sun Valley, you can't commute in from a neighboring community that's blue-collar homes to work and live, right? So we have to solve our problem right here. And what Cliff and his people are doing is fabulous work, really good, steadily producing homes, ownership and rental models of a wide variety over the years. And we get together and talk shop sometimes, you know. So, yes.
Oh, thanks, Randy. Real quick, just wondering, you mentioned like income debt ratios.
Mhm.
What actually is the income cutoff for one of these homes? Around about.
Well, the income, who qualifies, what, 120% of area median income?
Oh, sorry, the bottom cutoff.
Oh, the DTI, the
Below
debt to
which-
income
Yes.
ratio. One of you people who know so much more, take that.
I can take it because
Go ahead.
Yeah.
CLT. As part of determining who would best qualify for a home in the community, which has gotten more difficult the more applicants we've gotten, we set a baseline level of 40%. 41% debt to income, thank you.
Yeah.
However, we researched similar programs, and USDA has debt to income guidelines that we chose to follow, which are also 41%, at least what we found, 41% debt to income. However, there are some factors that would allow us to bring that up to 44%. So they have to meet one of several criteria for us to allow it to go up to 44%, but we will go that.
Can you define DTI a bit more clearly?
There's technically two numbers, your front end and your back end. The front end is your income versus the house payment. So the back end is all of your debts and your house payment. So that's how the DTI, and the 41 she's talking about is the back end, which is going to be your home and your debts,
Right.
meaning the 41%. And I just wanted to add, a lot of borrowers come and say, well, but I can afford a lot more. Someone else said that, I can afford a lot more. And the reason that makes this program so good is that a lot of people don't understand. Well, an example, I make, $1,000. I can afford to pay $800. Why can't I have 80%? Well, we don't know all your other debts. We don't know all those other things, and we don't want to set you up for failure. So that's why those guidelines are very small. I did also want to add that a lot of those other programs we talked about, that I talked about, the HOP funds or the LIFT funds, they also all have their own guidelines, and their numbers or their ratios could be lower. So it's difficult to piece all those together, but it does happen, and so I just wanted to say that.
So the income is figured at your gross income, so your gross monthly income. Before taxes, before your retirement, before your health care, like whatever is being taken out of your check. It also, we look at that gross income figure and you compare it to what is your overall debt. So do you have credit card debt? Do you have home debt? Do you have car payments, things like that, right? And so those debts are put together, what your monthly payment on those is compared to what your gross monthly income is. And then there has to be a buffer in there for your grocery bills and your other regular living expenses that are part of the equation. And so 40% has roughly been a number that most, I think, lending institutions use right in that area as a guideline for where a borrower can afford to make this payment without putting them in a position of struggle, right? We're not putting them in a bad position.
Right.
And I think, to answer your question, USDA actually has a tool on their website that you can put your income in, put some of your expenses in. It'll tell you, based on their ratios, where you kind of fall in that range. So I'm just saying it's kind of a neat tool instead of, I can do it in Excel because I know how to do it, but they have I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. No,
I
it's
think it's
great.
a really neat little tool because then you kind of even know what you're shopping for. Because, okay, I can only afford a mortgage of $800, well, then you can go do other web banking and see what that allows you to buy.
Right.
So you can do a lot of that stuff before you ever walk into a bank.
Yeah.
Which I like to do because I want to be in a position to negotiate. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty nice tool on USDA's website.
20% is based on family size also.
Yeah. But the one thing I would say about that is, those calculators, that's a great place to start so you have kind of an idea of what you're looking at. But I think Don specifically can attest to when you actually go in and talk to mortgage lenders, there are so many programs out there
Yeah.
that can impact your ability to borrow in a positive way. And so really talking to those lenders is...
I wasn't trying to pay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I use those calculators.
I just think sometimes it's nice to start that
Yeah.
a little ahead of time. If you have, 60,000 credit card debt, it's gonna change a lot of things, right?
Yeah, we've seen it make terrible impacts, personal debt on people's abilities to buy a home. And it can just be heart-wrenching. You want so badly to get a home to this family, and they've made some choices that make it impossible to do so. So, yeah.
Hi, so we have a comment online and a question. We're getting close on time, so maybe we can wrap it up
Okay.
after this. The comment is from Amy Ainsley from the city. She says, we're aiming to get the request for qualifications
Oh, good.
for the land study out before the end of the year, with a smiley face.
Excellent.
And then the question is, how does the cost of putting in roads and utilities factor into the feasibility of developing sites for housing? It seems like if the city owns a bunch of land and is able to offload it easier than the state and the federal government, municipal land should be the first avenue that is explored for development. Can you talk about challenges involved in that?
Yeah, I can.
He says, but you gave him a time limit, so.
There's no good math on that. If you have to develop the site, put in the roads and put in the utilities, you cannot produce affordable housing if the cost of that development is assigned to the houses. Can't be done. Sorry, the math's twice as expensive as is reasonable. You have to find grants, subsidies, some way or another to put the infrastructure in order to create the houses. The $280,000 home that we're selling has $35,000 of subsidy from the Rasmussen Foundation, plus the value of the land, which was free from the city. And it's still $280,000, right? So the city could give us, or the state, a vast tract of land, and without some serious money, we can't turn that into houses, is the bottom line. There has to be, but if you think about it, the people on Edgecombe Drive did not pay for the development of Edgecombe Drive. They didn't build that road and put in that street and put in the utilities. Nobody does that, right? Public entities put in infrastructure on public land to create housing. So it's the same as anyone else. This isn't particular because we're a nonprofit. Nobody else is paying those costs either, but they are big.
Well, and I think also important to note, and speaking as a CLT board member, as opposed to a lender, the CLT has even very recently reviewed the city-owned lots that we would maybe like to approach the city about at some point, or that we're considering as options that, I mean, the land development, of course, site prep and all that that's necessary, but roads and utilities and things are already in these areas. So, I mean, it really, there's so much land out there, but whether the city will part with it is the question.
It is my view that they should, because all of the land that the city owns generates zero property taxes. The biggest economic problem and demographic problem this community faces is affordable housing. It's in the best interest of all of us to get that into housing, one way or another, to get it into housing. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to First Bank and my colleagues here for the work that they've done to help the Sitka Community Land Trust be thriving.
Thank you guys for such a wonderful conversation. This was one of our more engaging conversations. This was a thank you, Chamber, for putting this together. This really was very valuable information and really good discussion. And thank you all for being here, taking time out of your busy weeks, coming to have lunch with us. Just a little shameless plug about my task force, the Sitka Emerging Leaders. Don't forget, we are meeting tomorrow. Harbor Mountain Brewing, 5 to 7. If you know anybody 21 to 40, it is open to all. It is great. Please have them come. It's an amazing community of young professionals who are paving the way to be the future leaders of Sitka.